Hello and welcome to another day at the coast. I'm standing here just wetting my wading boots for the first time today. It is just 1 hour before sunset and I haven't fished at all today. It's a little bit awkward standing here talking because people are looking at me, people that have already given up for today. So I think it's a little bit awkward still to talk to the camera. Never gets normal. But I'm super excited that you're with me. Excellent conditions. When it is conditions like this, very calm, it can be very tricky. Fish is spooky and prefer to be far out. I couldn't disagree more to that. Actually, even in calm conditions like this, the fish like to be really shallow. It's something that I'm getting quite tired of these misconceptions about coastal fishing. I'm not saying that they're always in shallow, but I mean the sun has been out the whole day. It's really warm in the shallow water, especially now towards the evening. It's really important to fish the shallow water. I'm totally gonna commit to it today. I brought the Vibe 85 short head line, and I'm gonna make sure to not use too much of the line today. I'm gonna do very few casts or very short casts and then many instead, to make sure to really cover as much of the shallow water as possible. I have plenty of shoreline in front of me, so really much looking forward to it. Old Robert is back because now I'm fishing with a mulkis and a jiggy fly, a combination I fished so many times before, but sort of been a forgotten combination of mine. So I look a lot forward to that. Let's give it a go. So beginning here, taking the first cast around the rocks in the knee-deep shallow water, ripping out some line while I'm retrieving, and actually that was quite much. I committed today to do short casts, kind of forgot that immediately. What I hope to do today is to really make a statement that you don't need to cast far. I mean, and I've been guilty to this myself. I've been casting for I'm always trying to cast really far during my fishing to try to cover as much water as possible, but yeah, you cover more water further out, but you don't actually cover more water, or not by a big margin, because with shorter casts you can do more casts. And if you believe that the shallower water is the most important, then you definitely have the flies in the strike zone more if you do shorter casts. People that have maybe done some casting with fly rod in northern Sweden or so, in rivers, but never committed to it on the coast, and they think that you need to cast super far, so instead they just go with the spinning rod. And yeah, of course anyone is welcome to use spinning rod if they want, but it's not true that you need to cast far. 17 minutes into the fishing, I had no bite so far, but this is clearly a part of my strategy. You see I'm moving at the moment, and that's something I definitely do. It is part of my strategy when casting short, is that I can cover more water. If you are standing still, then you probably need to cast far. If you're always on the move, then you can definitely cast short. It's similar to what boat anglers do. They have an electronic engine in the front. If they go on high gear, it makes no sense to cast far. They need to cast short to have contact with the flies or with the lures, and just to be more efficient. If you cast really far, it is better to slow down. So that's how it went for me, that I wanted to fish a long stretch and I believed that they were in the shallows, so I had to cast short. Before I always casted so freaking far, and now when I'm starting to go shorter, because I definitely do cast shorter overall, and then I can more easily cover more water and I can more enjoy my time at the water. At the end of this video I will suggest a next video to watch where I had to cast short during the whole day because I had wrist and elbow pains from my long distance casting for like long periods of time. So I did go cast very short that whole day, and I had the most amazing day. The best day that spring for me. for sure. So remember that in the end of this video a screen will pop up, but let's stick with this video first and make sure to catch some nice sea trout. So I'm now 300 meters into the session, and I will start to experiment with some different flies because I had no contact so far. I'm gonna begin with replacing the mulkis for a little bit less lift in the rig, because the mulkis that holds up the jiggy fly quite a lot. So I'm just gonna begin now with a little bit more aggressive retrieve with a predator dubbing bait fish and a jiggy fly. Later on I plan to replace this jiggy fly with a shrimp, but at first I will give this setup a little go here. Oh, so much nicer to cast. I think I could cast 10 meters longer with this setup, but I won't. Yep, fish on. It took the predator dubbing bait fish. So it worked out to change the fly. A little bit more aggressive retrieve, and didn't take so many casts to have a fish in the net. Sweet! Not a big one at all. I realized I have a spoon in the net. So first fish of the evening. Feels great. The predator dubbing bait fish did the trick, so could be that I just walked by lots of fish, but with the wrong fly I didn't get any reactions. So yeah, here we have a fish and a spoon, because I eaten last trip and I didn't know where to put it, so yeah, it has been in the net since then. So small fish, but a first of the evening, so super happy about that, and I let it go. I think more about that, the presentation, that I do the actual color or the what kind of fly it is. I think it's very important to get the right presentation for the fish. I mean, if you're too far up on to the surface, I think that can be the difference if you catch a fish or not. Like for example, now I had a mulkis that really lifted the setup, or some days if I fish with a little shorter leader than I usually do, so I'm fishing a floating line and a little bit shorter leader, I don't get the flies down as much as I otherwise would. I definitely see that can affect the results in my fishing. And to answer if there's any questions on how long my leaders are, normally I made a video of a complete setup, exactly how I make my rigs, and you can check that out in the link in the video description, where I also write a lot about what gear I'm using and so on. So check that out. I try to make the video description as full of information as possible in every video. So let's go back to the scenario of the fisherman from the boat with the electronic engine. What would the boat angler do that had the electronic engine if he had landed a fish like this? What he would do is to press the auto anchor function to just stay put. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do as well. Now I caught one fish here, so I'm just gonna keep hammering on this spot and see if there's more in the area. I must confess that I did pretty weak of a hook set on that fish. I didn't think it was a strike, it just felt like another clump of seaweed. So I was quite surprised to see that it took the dropper fly and that it had really taken it on the middle, just straight across the mouth. Because usually when they take the dropper fly, you feel it so much harder in the line compared to when it takes the end fly. And with a jiggy fly, the line stays pretty tight during the whole retrieve. So yeah, I must say I'm pretty surprised about that I didn't feel it harder. But on the other hand, it was not a big fish. There, fish on again. This is bigger, I think. Gonna hold the rod down a little bit because there is anglers to both my left and my right, so I'm gonna be pretty careful not to show too much that I have fish. It's the Easter weekend, so the shorelines are pretty crowded. Yeah, this is a nicer fish, and again on the dropper fly. That's one I definitely felt more. Fly is loose. I don't know if I dare to change the jiggy fly just yet, because the rig is clearly working, and it can be that the line definitely keeps more tight, and it goes down a little bit more in the water column when I have a jiggy fly in the end. Maybe the spoon brings luck. Gonna maybe have to fish with a spoon in my net all the time. There we go. 1 hour of fishing and now 2 sea trout. How wonderful. As long as I'm catching fish, I'm not gonna change anything. I'm just gonna keep on doing the same thing here on the same place. What I might do, actually, the first difference I'm gonna do is when I've casted here enough, so I think it's getting boring, is to start extending with a few more meters of line, I think, to sacrifice being more efficient covering water, to actually slow down here and fish more on this place. So far I've done maximum 18-meter casts, and that's for being me, who is a casting freak, that is very short. You see, there is, where in the direction of the sun, that's where I had the strikes, and just about 16-18 meters out there looks like there is a little ridge where the waves are rising a little bit more. So I think I'm not going to be in any hurry casting my fly line over that. I prefer that my flies are there, and I think you can definitely spook a fish by landing with a fly line over it. When I've been fishing in the tropics, then it's a totally different story. If you cast your fly line over a fish, they just fly out of the water, they freak out. And so you will easily learn your lesson there, that you do spook fish with the fly line in the tropics. And I'm sure you do that here as well. But ooh, you see that swirl? That was a take. That was a take. Good take. Very close to me. Just 2.5 rod lengths away from me. And I will really try to not be bitter about that lost fish here. But I think that's the biggest fish I had on today. That felt really solid, and that swirl in the surface looked very tempting. I'd really like to see that fish.
Without my love for the ocean, I would be long gone by now. It's some kind of devotion that brings me down. That without my love for the ocean.
So it feels good to be back in a warm car now. I just want to say, like, after 2 hours of fishing with 2 landed sea trout, I mean, they were not very impressive, but I'm still really happy with the result, and I got a lot of good things out of me, I think. Sea trout fishing is not easy. I definitely not ready to commit to saying that. It is quite challenging to catch sea trout on a fly rod. Today I was really fortunate to catch 2. The distance though, in casting far on the coast, is not as important as you may think. But when you're casting with a fly rod, it requires that you're quite knowledgeable about where the sea trout might be and also know the area quite a bit. It is easier, I would say, with a spinning rod to just know that, okay, I'm just standing here casting out, reaching 80 meters out and retrieving the whole thing. Well, that is easier than with fly rod, because when you're casting shorter and that is what you're focusing on, it requires sort of that you have the sense of knowing when you need to take those extra steps to reach out to the ledge, or when it is the right time to back in like 3-4 meters extra, just so you fish that little hole in the right way without spooking the fish. It is still a lot, I think, to talk about and to teach in this format. So I thank you very much for your time watching today, and I so much look forward to doing more videos. So thank you very much to stick through the whole video. It turned out to be all into the dark. It was just one little hole where I had some action, but that's how sea trout fishing is sometimes. The video I recommended earlier, here it is. Fantastic evening with sea trout fishing, just relaxed, casting short. Didn't know why, but it was one of the best days that spring. See you over there.